Hello everyone, my name is Dora Darlina Anadismas 83682. In this video, my groupmates and I will be talking about the stages of child development. So what is an early childhood development? According to Manas 2019, early childhood development is a term used to describe a child's physical, cognitive and social-emotional development until age 8. Next, I would like to explain one by one of these developments more specifically. The first one is physical development. It is an event where the child does predictable events at a young age, such as crawling, crying, and other basic movements. These are predictable events that a baby should do during their age. Therefore, parents should always do a medical checkup with their babies at the nearest mother and child clinic to examine their baby development. By doing so, they can gain information whether their baby is normal and healthy or not. The second one is cognitive development, which refers to learning and thought of a child processes. For example, babies often learn and gain new knowledge from their surroundings and tries to copy them. The brain of the baby works in an interesting way. They pick up what they often saw with their naked eyes in his or her household, not to mention the outside world too. Any actions performed in front of the babies will be practiced by them and implied as they grow up. Third is social-emotional development, which deeply intertwines with the child's emotion and understanding. Emotions such as anger, sadness, and happiness are the emotions that they will begin to understand as they grow up. Every children have the basic emotions a human should have. Therefore, as they grow up, they begin to understand their feelings and emotions in their own way. Now, I will be talking about pedagogy, which is a method commonly used in raising children where aims are set and goals are to be achieved. Pedagogy requires both cooperation of a parent and their child to influence their well-being. Therefore, parents should always be a good role model to their children in many ways by showing sincerity, teaching responsibility, being kind-hearted, and other moral values for a healthy future of their child. For example, in the household, parents should always show care and giving their children enough attention so that the children won't grow up as a rebel towards their parent and also towards the community. Different approach can be taken to empower a children's growth, and it includes positioning, encouraging, praising, and problem solving. Therefore, it is clear that the early childhood period is the basis for later success in life. Each and every child has the right to early childhood development. Therefore, there are 4 stages of a childhood development which offer different milestones in life, starting with prenatal development, infancy and toddlerhood, early childhood, and adolescence. Next, I would like to talk about the first stage of a child development, which is the prenatal stage, also known as the basis of a child's growth as they are coming into this world. For your information, prenatal development is also called as antenatal development. Prenatal development has its own definition, which I would like to share with you. Prenatal development is defined as the process of growth and development within the womb from fertilization until birth. The union of the male and female gamete is the mark of the prenatal period. Therefore, it is always a blessing for any married couple when they are known to conceive a child, and this prenatal period should be taken seriously by any parents. Next, back to the prenatal development. It is divided into 3 sub-stages, which are germinal stage, the embryonic period, and fetal period. Let me explain more deeply about each stage. Germinal stage is the first stage that occurs during the prenatal period. Another way to say it is, germinal stage begins at conception when sperm and egg are united in one of the 2 fallopian tubes. The fertilized egg, which is also called a zygote, divides and multiplies rapidly during the first week to form what is known as blastocyst. Next, this blastocyst will proceed its way to the uterus. Once it arrives at the uterus, the embryonic stage now begins. In the uterus, we now have an embryo. During this stage, the embryo slowly becomes as distinct as human. Basic human structures such as head, chest, and abdomen begins to develop. The heart also begins to beat, and some organs begins to function. Not to forget, the development of the brain is also important during this stage. Therefore, mothers should be careful with what they are eating and taking to make sure the development of their babies in their womb is always healthy. The last stage is fetal stage. As the organism reaches 9 weeks old, the embryo is now called a fetus. This stage marks amazing change and growth. During this third month of gestation, the sex organs begins to differentiate. Fingerprints are starting to become visible, weight can also be approximate, and hearing is also developed. At this point, the baby can now survive at the outside of its mother's womb. That is all about the prenatal period. Now I would like to leave it to Isman to talk about the second and third stage of the child development. Thank you.
So I'm Faizman and I will continue to the second stage in this child development. For the second stage in the child development is infancy and toddlerhood. For human, infancy is a time that immediately after birth, the time between birth and acquisition development, which typically occurs 1 to 2 years later. Following is a brief discussion on infancy. To fully address early childhood, brain development is human. As the lungs fill with the air and oxygen is delivered to the blood, the respiratory system starts to work. The infant's own activity and body fat predominantly use the amniotic fluid, which is no longer used to circulate the blood. The digestive system probably takes the longest to adapt to life outside the womb. During this stage, the baby able to interact with the world. Reflexes are a group of innate involuntary behavioral patterns that are present in babies. Reflexes aid an infant in surviving until they can acquire more complex way of interacting. There are 5 infant reflexes, which is the grabbing reflex, the startle reflex, the stepping reflex, and the sucking reflex. Although there are variations in the rate of motor growth, the process is still the same. Within a few days of birth, breastfeed babies can genuinely distinguish between the scent of distinguish between the scent of their own mother milk and that of another woman's milk. Shearing is functioning before birth, but it could take some time for it to develop fully after birth. The womb's liquid must totally drain out. For the third stage in the child development is early childhood. Unexpected similarities between toddlers in various cultures exist. Young children who are no longer infants but have not yet entered middle childhood are creatures undergoing rapid developmental change. They frequently amaze their parents with their newly acquired skills while also demonstrating how adamantly they can pursue their own interests. Based on Erikson theory, autonomy versus shame is the second stage of psychosocial development, which is a toddlerhood stage. Erikson assert that children during this time are focused on developing a sense of personal control over their physical talent as well as independence. In this stage, children climbing, touching, exploring, and overall desire to do things for themselves are signs of developing self-control. By encouraging kids to try out new abilities, parents may promote a sense of independence in their kids, but the child's clumsy attempt frequently results in spilling, falling, wetting, and other accidents. According to Erikson, parents should provide their kids the flexibility to test the boundaries of their skills in a supporting setting that accepts failure. Therefore, the parents must safeguard the child while also promoting the youngsters the independence in order to prevent recurring failure. Thank you. That's it for me. I will pass it to Amalin.
Childhood is the age range from a child's 6th to 12th birthday. Development in all areas such as physical, mental, emotional, and social is currently undergoing substantial expansion. For this age group, there are lots of normal physical growth milestones. Typically, children get more active and lose their neonatal weight. Increases in lung capacity and muscle strength lead to improvements in speed and endurance. At this age, baby teeth also fall out and replaced by adult teeth. The brain has already grown to 95% of its adult size by the age of 6. Myelination in the hippocampus lengthens memories and makes it easier for information to move from short-term to long-term memory. As children get older, they are more likely to encounter peer pressure, academic material, and understand contradicting information. For some children, eating disorders, body image issues, and self-image issues begin to surface. Adolescence is the period of time between childhood and maturity. These physical changes may cause some people to feel worried, especially if they don't know what to anticipate or what is normal. Early adolescents have a clear binary worldview. Either everything is fantastic or terrifying. Preteens and young teenagers commonly experience self-consciousness about their appearance as a result. They might start to explore for means of severing their ties with their family. Similar to how it did during puberty, their body continues to change during middle adolescence. Most boys who have begun their growth spurt and puberty-related changes will still be taking place. Female physical changes may be almost complete and regular menstruation is now a common occurrence. Although middle schoolers are stronger at thinking abstractly and understanding the big picture, they might lack the practical application skills to put that ability to use. If these situations weren't there, people might be able to use rationality to avoid dangers, but while impulses are involved, strong emotions frequently continue to have an impact on their decisions. Thank you.